What's up, guys? Josh with Navigate the Wild, and tonight we're breaking down a deer. We're gonna break down a deer, which I've done in the past, but this time I'm gonna kind of walk a fellow hunter through the process of what that looks like. So we're gonna get an idea of what he wants out of the cuts of meat, and we're gonna take him from beginning to end. We're gonna do hams, back straps, shoulders. We're going to do grind meat, and we're gonna do neck, I think. We'll get it all broken down and get it packaged up and get it on its way. So let's get started. So you've shot a deer. Now what the hell do you do? We've got it gutted, and this meat has sat on the bone, on ice for 5 days, 6 days.
Yeah.
So it's super cold, smells good, right? Smell is always a dead giveaway that something ain't good. And so we're gonna walk Tyler through just breaking this down, cut by cut, and really getting the cuts of meat that he wants. So if he wants more steaks, we'll make sure we get those. We're going to get the eye round, the top round, the bottom round out of it, the football roast out of it. We're going to cut some of this stuff off. And we're just going to take our time and work this whole process so you could do the same thing at home. So the first thing that we're going to do, other than get some of this silver skin off, right, is I do more work with, I do little incisions with the knife,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to do more work with my hands. And the reason I do that, and the reason you should do that, is because it really allows you to feel the seams of the meat.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to be able to break this stuff apart and really start to feel what it feels like to have these pieces of meat together. So we're gonna start with the Benchmade Steep Country. And the first thing I want you to do, Tyler, is you can see this first seam here, right?
Yeah.
So just really nice and gently, I want you to make a small incision right there. And then this Y cut here, I want you to make a small incision right there as well. Just so we can get our fingers underneath it. Normally what I'll do is go tip up. So go like this, just like you're getting into the cavity
Yeah.
of the guts, right? You see how I did that? So I've just literally got underneath the white,
Okay.
right? So hit it there too. And give it to me right there. Nice and easy. Yeah, that thing's good. Always start with sharp knives. I always sharpen my knives before I start anything. We use Victorinox here, Victorinox boning knife. This is more of just I got this one for shoulders. It's like a semi-flex Victorinox. I forgot the name of it, but it's a great knife. Okay, and what he's gonna do here is we've just kind of exposed the first couple of big cuts. Underneath here, we've got that football roast. I don't know what the official name is, and we'll cut a little more of that away. But you can actually start to feel, and I'll work my thumb into those areas, right? So go ahead and you're just going to follow this nice and easy, and you're going to cut that seam.
I see.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Nice. And once if you want, you make a little cut, get your hand in there, make a little more play, you know? It's like getting under a turkey's skin and separating the breast from the skin so you can marinate it. I don't know where my coffee went. Oh, there it is. We've got the bin set up, guys, because as Tyler breaks down his meat, just to make things easier to work with, we're going to put the cuts of meat in the bins, and then we'll work with it a little more. So just get used to coming in here. This football roast is going to run on that main bone. Okay? And so we're going to want to get down here, just move around. You can feel that's just like a little... The only thing holding that's a little fat, so you're going to cut that, and we'll separate that. But you can do it just with your fingers. You can do a lot with just your fingers, right? This top piece here is going to wind up coming off, right? Because it's just exposing the meat. This is just fat on top we won't keep. Go ahead and just keep working this down with the knife and separating this with your hands, just nice and gentle, and doing the same thing, okay?
Yeah.
And wherever you feel it gets stuck, get your knife and give yourself a little incision right there and make more room. We're gonna wind up eventually taking that knife and working that bone
Yeah.
and getting it right off the bone. Really what we wanna do is start, once we get the first big hunk of meat off, then you can really start finagling stuff and seeing where things are.
You want this fat off, or you gonna wait?
Well, there's really no, what I would probably do is exactly what you're thinking. I would probably, because this is kind of a hunk of meat off of the ham, so probably what I would do just to create some separation is I'd come in here, I would take this piece, because this is what we cut off the back, and I would clean this up, and this would go into the grind pile, right? And what I do with my grind pile is I will take that, I get that piece off, and then I'll cube it and get it prepped for grind. All right, we're just gonna put it in for there. So now we've got this bone, right?
Yeah.
And what you want to do here is just keep moving and cutting that fat away and exposing. See, I'm barely touching that. And you're just going to keep exposing that and working yourself down. You're going to work this down to the shank in here. We're going to come in here, and you've got this bone, right? And you're going to take this knife, and you're just going to ride that bone. Ride the bone, okay? Just ride the bone.
Good quote.
And just keep working. You'll feel it on the bone. And just keep working that thing around the bone, right? So go ahead and continue to work all this, and let's separate that. And guys, as you do this, the more deer, the more pigs. That's why I don't really pass up on pigs. You know, our pig season's year round here. And so I can work all this stuff out on pigs year round. So when it gets to it where it really counts with deer, I'm so much faster because I've got those reps in. That looks great. So now what I want you to do is take your knife, and we've got that growth, one of those growths.
Yeah, I noticed that.
We're going to cut that out. So that's one thing, guys. When you're doing pigs, doing deer, you just want to keep your eyes open on things like this. Sometimes you get these growths in deer and pigs and stuff. You don't want to bite into that. We cut that out, okay? That is no good, no bueno. So what I want you to do now is take your knife. You're going to come up here. You can kind of feel it. You can cut right in here and then come around this knuckle, okay? And just cut it straight down. Yep. Let it give, and then ride your knife right up in there, and then come across the knuckle right in there. Don't be shy about it either. Get it in there and make the knife work for you. You can't do this wrong. That's good. Oh yeah. And we'll probably, unless you want to do ossobuco, we'll make all that grind meat.
Okay.
Right? So now go ahead and take the blade. You can take any blade and just start separating that and getting this fat off of there, right? Once you do that, you keep working this bone up in here. Right in there, just like that. So just keep working your knife, the tip of your knife around. Same thing. Keep working it around. And before you know it, if you want to, you're really close to getting that off. And then what you do, I like to get as much off as I can, right? And then expose this, right? Because we're just going to use that into grind meat. Go ahead and take your knife and cut in here, cut that seam, and we're going to take the football off. Looks good. Looks great. Now, sometimes what will happen is this will be wrapped around the football like that, so it won't look like anything. And then you get it, and there you go. He's got his first really nice roast. So you can do a few things with this. Hey, it is chilly, bro. We're recording a video. You coming out? Okay.
It's cold out
Yeah.
as he's not wearing his shirt.
Yeah, he's naked. Okay. All right, so we've got the football roast. We're going to put this off to the side really quick and decide, what do you want to do with this? And that's a question you should be asking yourself while you're cutting this stuff up. What kind of cuts do you want from this? I will tell you, this is a great cut of meat, and most of it's pure. But when we cut this off, when we cut into these, like let's say we make steaks,
Yeah.
there's going to be some of this sinew
In between.
in between,
Yeah.
which is fine. You can crock pot this entire thing. You're going to lose probably a third of its size. I do one of two things. I either make it into grind because I love burger, or I cut it into steaks. If you want to cut it into steaks, what we do is keep it whole. So I would much rather freeze it just like this, because this is going to be one nice meal for you and maybe your wife, or you
Yeah.
and a buddy, or just you, and then maybe lunch the next day.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're going to do that, what I do is I like to cap the ends, right? This end that goes into the grind pile, and this will go into the grind pile, right? And you could kind of see that sinew in there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's all good for grind. Now you've got a nice squared off roast. And if you're going to cut this in for steaks, when you're looking at it, you can go, well, how thick do I want my steaks?
Yeah.
Right? And I'll cut them 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. If it's a big deer, I'll cut a full inch, right? What would you like to do with your football roast?
Probably grind.
Really? You want to make more burger than anything?
Yeah.
And remember, unless you're me and you blow a deer's leg off, okay, because that's happened, you get 2 of these. So you could do more grind,
Yeah.
right?
We'll
And
do one steak and one grind then.
yeah, you could do that. That's fine. All right, so just to make things easier, let's keep this one whole. This will be your steaks.
Okay.
That goes into the bin. All right, next step. Let's get this off. I would just say cut as much of this away as possible, and this is going to become grind. There's a seam here,
Yeah.
and there's also a seam in here. So why don't you go up in here and start cutting this away, and you're going to separate this seam and this big piece,
I see,
okay? And
yeah.
I'll get this trimmed up real quick. Deer fat is not like beef tallow, okay? So when you're new to this and you want to start doing this, it's important to remember you're not going to eat that like you would a beef steak. This does not, it does not burn well, it does not cook well, and it does not taste good, okay? So the best thing to do, and some guys get super meticulous on it, I don't get as meticulous on it. If I'm going to grind a piece of meat, I'll cut the big pieces away, and I might even get under this a little more just to get what I can get off, but I don't get crazy with it because it's going to go into the grind pile, and I'm going to grind it with beef fat, and I'm going to double grind it, coarse and ground, and you won't even know it was there, okay? It won't have an off flavor at all. So that'll be great. Okay,
And then
you
this,
got your next big roast off. Congratulations. So now, I'm just going to cube this up. The growth is out. That is great. Growth is out. Now what I do with these, that's great. Looks awesome. Okay. So what I would do is I cut this piece off, right? I just like things looking uniform and nice, right? Oh, by the way, I think it's important to mention, if you haven't been able to tell already, I'm not a professional butcher. I wish it was. I'm not. I fantasize about it. I'd love to do it at one day. But I really just wanted to learn the process of how to process my own meat, And I'm getting better at it over the years, but I am not a professional butcher, if you can't tell already. All right. So we cut this away. We're just going to cut away this fat, and I trim that off. So you've got your calf muscle, right? You've got your eye round. That's what this is.
Okay.
This is the top round, and this is the bottom round. Those are the three big pieces that come off your deer. So what I would do with this is I'm going to cut this seam, right? Because it's not a piece of the round. This is just the seam. We're gonna put that in the grind, and then this I just like to cap because this end is so narrow, and it's gonna. If I don't grind it, a lot of times what will happen is you'll put it on the grill or whatever. You'll go to roast it, and it will just dry out faster because it tapers.
Cook a lot faster, yeah.
So now you've got this beautiful roast, and I would cut this into steaks when you're ready.
Yeah.
All right?
Sweet.
There's your bottom round. Done. Okay. Now what you're going to do, bring this over, get nice and comfy, and then what you're going to do is this is all going to be ground. So
Okay.
what I want you to do is run your knife underneath this tendon. Let's separate that. You can even start it with your finger if you want. Get under there, pull it away, do your little cut, and then you're going to separate your eye round. You can see all that sinew in there
Yeah.
from your calf muscle, and let's get that separated. Okay, Tyler, now what I want you to do is take your knife. Same thing with the football roast. Take that knife and run it along this bone. Let's separate this bone.
Okay.
And you don't have much because we already did it with the...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Yep, exactly. Do exactly that. Yep. Come right off. Bingo. Perfect. A little more. Perfect. Yep. Follow it down. Right, and I just use my hand. Make a little room.
Yeah.
That way you can see what's going on. Right. And then go ahead and cut your eye round. If you guys are ever interested in butchering, the Bearded Butchers on YouTube are phenomenal. And then the Scott Ree Project on YouTube. He's a butcher in the UK, and the guy is awesome. Okay, so we have our eye round. There it is. You get 2 of these. Sometimes what I like to do is keep both of them as a meal. Like I'll do like a breakfast and eggs and eye round. Or I grind it.
Yeah.
All right, next thing I want you to do, separate this last little piece. Let's get this roast off. So now we've got the bone, right? We'll put that off to the side. This is your bigger roast. It's not a full roast. There's actually a few seams in here. So the first thing that I do is I usually take off this top flap. I make this into burger because it's just flat, and some guys leave it on. I like to take it off. That way I can clean up what's there, all right? So I just take this. Boom. Any little fat like that comes off. Again, it does not eat well. So we've got this roast here, but there's a seam here. And there's this piece here that comes off too. We're going to take this off, and then you can either keep these 2 pieces together and make good-sized steaks, or you could take this off, make a roast, and have some more grind. So let's separate this first so you know what we're talking about. You have one really nice hunk of meat to make steaks, or we can separate it, and you could have like a dinner roast if you want. Scott Ree does this. He caps everything, makes everything nice and uniform.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you can cut steaks out of that, and it would be good.
Yeah.
That's what I usually do. You could also take this off, and you could have a nice dinner roast or smaller steaks. It's really up to you. Now, we take this crap off. And this just isn't This isn't fun. Guys keep these on the bone all the time. I do not. I make it into burger. Get that piece, and then you've just got whatever I can cut off of this bone. Now, the other thing to mention is you have bones. So you can make bone broth. This is what you end up with. Bone broth.
A beautiful thing.
Pure gold,
Yeah.
right? All right, so the bones are going to go off to the side. And then we have this big hunk of meat. Again, I don't get crazy with it. Please be careful, Benaya. Don't die.
Why did I die?
I don't know. You're...
Trust me, I am a professional at parkour. I will not kill myself.
Okay. We're just going to cut this up. This is going to get ground. And we're going to make burger. So Tyler's just cutting his second football roast up. We're going to grind all this into burger. He's got a growing family, boys that want grind meat. They want tacos. They want spaghetti. They want chili. And so that's what we're making.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can make it even bigger pieces. You don't have to
Go crazy.
You don't have to go crazy. Yeah, just hunks like that. The grinder will handle all that. So that's not a problem at all. Boom. Just add it in there. Yep. Right into the pile. We're just taking the muscle off the shank, exposing that top round, and just trimming off that top flap to really see what you're working with there. Once you can see and better define the cuts of meat, then you can form it into what you truly want it to look like before you eat it. The presentation is an important part of the process as well, in my opinion. So now we've got a shoulder. This is the first shoulder that we've done. Just going to hit the knife real quick. We cut this one pretty low. So normally I'll just cut that right there. We can just take this off. I'll take the bones themselves and I will make it into bone broth. So I'm not too concerned about breaking it. We could also cut it up here if we wanted, okay? And separate them if we wanted. There's options here. This is going to get into grind meat, which is fine. But the big thing, and this is where my flex blade comes into play. There is a Y in here. Okay, it's still got a little dirt on it. We could even cut a little of that off if we want, no problem. But there's a scapula up here, right? So you can kind of see that there. That's all bone. You're going to come down each side. One side's going to fall off and there's going to be more meat on the back. The left side, I think, isn't going to have as much meat. So the first thing that I do is I run my finger up there. Can you feel that bone?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So once you make this initial incision, I just follow it, right? And I will start peeling. It's usually easier to do it this way, but I'll start peeling it, and this semi-flex will kind of ride that scapula, which we will also make in the bone broth, right? This scapula, people say, oh, you lose a lot of meat. Not if you do it like this, okay? And I'll just ride this thing down. Same thing. I'll do this first one, and then you can do the second
Yeah.
one. And now we're getting into some meat here. This side won't have as much. All right, so we'll ride it down. And I'm just gonna, I'm like pushing on this blade and allowing this blade to ride that bone, right? And then it just peels off, just like that. Just like that. I'll cut that off. And there's that joint. And then what I'll do, I'll just try to peel this fat off, right, best I can. We'll trim that up. This can come off here, goes into the fat pile. And then I'll do the same thing on this back side. And I'll come across this scapula and just cut it off. That's gonna get ground. And I do this a lot faster because, like I said, we're grinding the whole thing, so it doesn't matter. All right, you're gonna lose a little bit of meat, but for the most part, we'll get the vast majority of it. But that's all bone. So when I ride my knife, there you go.
Nice.
All right, and we can get meticulous with this, and we can get a lot of this meat off to grind, not a problem. Oops. You can make this cut here if you want, right? So you take a little more of a heavy duty blade and you just cut that thing. Look at that.
Nice.
Now you've got, so if we didn't break this down, or if we left all the meat on, you would have one roast
Yeah.
and two roasts, right? But we didn't do that. We took the meat off. But all the meat off of this is good. I mean, that all the big stuff is off. That goes into the bone box. This, same thing. We could probably get a little bit in here for the grind. That's all tendon, and we're going to cook that. Show you what I'm talking about. So if Tyler wanted to have roasts, there you go. And you could see that smooth bone cut in there. Okay? So you would have one roast and a blade roast.
Yeah.
Right? But we're not going to do that. So I'm going to let him work on his blade roast. I'll cut this one down. Tyler, you use the semi-flex, and I will use the boning knife. Now the neck. The neck, most guys do this whole because it's just got a lot going on here. This is actually looks a lot bigger than it actually is because we didn't cut the trachea out. So the first thing that we're going to do is run this bottom line, and we're going to take this trachea out. Trachea is like it's pretty interesting, you know, if you're into anatomy, because it's like a water hose. I mean, it's thick. I mean, that thing is like, it's just a tube, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? So that gets thrown out. I used to slow cook it and make it into tacos. Then I just went, wow, I could get 1 or 2 pounds of grind out of this. So I started grinding it. But you're going to leave meat on the bone. It just sucks. It's just the way it is. So I just start hacking on it. Normally what I'll do is I'll run my line down the middle of it, and there's usually this piece of fat in here that we're gonna cut out, and it's just like yellow and just not good. So we'll get that off. But what I'm doing is I'm just going down both sides of this thing, right? And I'm getting as close to the bone as I can, and I'm getting as much meat off as I can, right? And you're just making like a flap out of it, and you're just, unfortunately, you're going to leave meat on the bone.
No.
Unless you slow cook it, it's just what happens.
Can you use this for bone broth, or if you were to get that fat?
So,
or?
yeah, we can cut that fat out. Here's why I don't. Now, I don't know, like I know a ton of guys that make deer roasts, and they use this neck, and I eat it, and I'm fine. There's never been a problem. However, that being said, I can't get past the idea that that's spinal fluid, and that's going to get in the stuff, and then I'm going to be eating that. I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. I'm sure I've eaten it before. I have deer neck stew all the time. But I just, I don't keep the bone. I cut around the bone, I get off what I can, and everything else gets thrown out. That's that piece of fat that's running down the center of that neck. Look at that thing. You don't want to eat that.
That's real yellow.
You don't want to be eating that. So again, we're just taking off what we can. Get off as much as you can. You're going to leave it. You're going to leave some on the bone. And I just, you know, I don't overthink it. I do what I can. You know, if I can't get it all, I can't get it all. It's just the way it is. And there's not much else I can get. The rest of that's bone. So, yeah, that's bone. There's a little bit here. Get that off. And that's it. So that's the neck. And we're going to toss the rest of that away. We have our heart. All I do with the heart is I usually cap it right there. Before I cook it, I'll clean out any stuff, and then I'll just go like this, and I'll just cut this white off, right? Just like that. And I'll make jerky out of this, or I'll fry it up, or whatever. All right, the final bosses. Now, remember with a backstrap is going to run, the fattest side is going to be closer to the rump. As it comes down to the neck, it's going to taper. That looks like it's tapering. It's actually going to taper a little more than that because there's a seam in here that doesn't belong here, and we're going to wind up cutting that away. It also has the thickest silver skin on it, in my opinion, than anything else has on it. So what we're going to do is you can use a fillet knife, you can use a semi-flex, and what I like to try to do is get my knife in there, and as I get my knife in there, I try to lift up and slightly angle my knife And I usually just ride and I push it down, and I just try to get as much silver skin off without getting a ton of meat off, right? Because that silver skin is pretty thick. So then I'll come back here and I'll do the same thing. And I just take my time, and it's like filleting a fish, right? And I'll try to get as much off as I can, and I'm just slightly pushing down, and I'm slightly angling my knife up, right? I'll do the first one, you can do the next one.
Yeah.
And we're just slightly allowing the knife to do what the knife does, right? And then you can peel this down,
Nice.
and there you go, okay? Same thing here. Okay, that's trash. And then what I'll do is I'll just get the silver skin off that I can get off. You can see that seam
Yeah.
right here doesn't belong, and this piece doesn't belong. So I'll just run my knife nice and slow, as close to that seam as possible, as close to this seam as possible. I want to keep as much backstrap there as possible. This side, we did a really good job. There's not much backstrap there. This one, same thing, which is great. Normally what I'll do if I have a really good deer year, I'll keep 1 or 2 of these whole, meaning if I get 3 or 4 deer, I'll take 2 backstraps, keep them whole. If I don't have a great deer year, I will cut these in half and be a little more stingy. Normally what I'll do is I'll keep this end because it tapers. I'll keep this end a little longer than this end because it's fatter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we'll just go right there.
Perfect.
All right, you work on this one. All you're going to see in this spot is Tyler starting to learn how to trim backstrap and really trim anything on deer. The reality is you just got to build up confidence. I was the exact same way when I first started trimming backstrap because you're scared that you're going to take off too much meat. Really the only way to learn is to just get in there and start doing it. The more you learn the knife, the more you learn the contour of the meat, the better you're going to be at getting more silver skin off in one swoop on either end of the backstrap. So this is just exactly how I started, just taking off little pieces. And the more and more confident I got with the blade, the thicker pieces of backstrap I could get in less swipes with the blade. So this doesn't belong. You could even feel it, how fat it is there compared to how thin it is right there.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll just follow that seam all the way. It's trash, and then what I'll do here is I'll just cut that, grind it. That looks good. That looks good, man.
Sweet.
There you have it. Well, guys, there you have it. You have 2 hams, 2 shoulders, 2 tenderloins, a heart, bones for bone broth, grind meat for burger, and all the steaks off the hams you want. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So good luck out there. Continue to navigate the wild. See you next time.